Hello, this is Vera again, and this is video number 8 in the Google Forms and Sheets Beginner series. In this video, I will talk about working with your form responses after your respondents have taken the form. We'll talk about, first of all, how to find your responses sheet, how to hide columns, protect rows and columns, do some simple sorting, learn some controls for searching your spreadsheet, and we'll talk about some different views you can use to make it a little easier to use. So let's get started. Okay, here I am back on my form where we've been before, and this is one way that you can find your responses sheet. Up here you have a tab that says View Responses. You have another tab that tells you how many people have responded, and either one of those will give you a link to view your responses. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that in a minute and take you into the responses, but I also want to show that you can find this by going to your Google Drive. And if you know the name, of course mine's showing up right here, but if you know the name of your form, then you can just search by keyword and all of these will come up, and it will be the one that says responses. So there it is, and that'll take me straight into my results as well. Now I took this form a few times, took some dummy answers in it so that I could work with those, so you can see those people are here. And what you will find is that this will always give you a timestamp, which is convenient if you're working with students and you need to know when things were turned in. And then it will give you all of the questions that you ask in order. Okay, however, you may not want to see this timestamp. Maybe it doesn't matter to you, and you don't want to have to scroll over to see all of the answers on the end. So there are a couple things you can do to remedy that problem. One of them is you can just hide that column that has the timestamp in it, and you can see here you can cut it, but you also have an icon right here to click to hide the column. And so there we go. Now our timestamp column is no longer in our way, and that just brings us a little closer to our other data. You also can resize these columns to match the data that's in them, and that just, again, it keeps you from having to scroll so far to see your answers. And you can also, of course, make them bigger if you need them to be bigger to read everything that's in them. You can make them bigger. So I'm just kind of adjusting these a little bit, and that gets all my data within the viewable window. And if I had lots and lots of questions, of course I would still have to scroll a lot, and that just is not going to be able to be avoided if you have lots of questions. So you might consider with forms not including tons and tons of questions. Okay, now chances are pretty good that your data is not going to come in the order that you want to work with it. And so you're going to want to do some sorting of your data or filtering. But you don't want your heading row to be included in that sorting and filtering. So what you need to do is to protect your heading row. And that's easy to do. You first just highlight it. And then you're going to do what's called freezing the row. So now that I have highlighted row 1, I'm going to go up here to View, Freeze Rows, and right now I have no frozen rows, but I'm going to freeze one row. And so now when I sort in a few minutes, my headings won't get sorted with the rest of the data. And I also think those headings would be better if they were bold print. So I'm going to go ahead and make them bold while I'm at it. Okay, so now I've got my bold-faced headings, and maybe I want to give them a little backfill color. And so while it's highlighted, I can do all of those things to kind of differentiate them from the rest of the form. Okay, so I'm going to give it a little fill color. Okay, now my heading row is obviously different from my other rows, and when I sort, it's not going to sort with them. So for example, one way that you can sort is just a simple sort by last name. And so if you see, when you put your cursor on one of these heading rows, on all of them you're going to see that little downward arrow, and that allows you to sort. So I'm going to sort them A to Z by the last name, and notice that my heading row didn't go anywhere. It's still where it belongs. And now obviously I don't have a lot of data in this form, this spreadsheet, but normally you're going to have a lot of data. And if you're looking for one thing, rather than scrolling through your whole spreadsheet, rows and rows and rows and columns, there's an easy way to search for things, and that is just Control F for find. And notice that up here I have a box comes up, Find in Sheet, and then if I maybe want to look for all of my novices, I can type the word novice and see it appears 10 times, and the first time is going to be highlighted there. If I want to look at the next time, it takes me to the next time, and then the next, and then the next, and so you can go through and you can follow the highlights there. It's taking me through all of the places that that word is used, and that can be super beneficial in a big long spreadsheet with lots and lots of data. So Control F equals find. Okay, the last tip I'm going to give you in this little series or this little video is how to see a summary of responses, which is a really nice little trick to use, and it's very easy to do. And if you first of all, you will find it under your form button. If you click form, you will see show summary of responses here as an option, and when you click it, it will bring up a summary again of everyone who's taken your form and what their responses were. Now, I will point out that if you enter data on your spreadsheet rather than having people enter it in the form, it will not be included in the summary. So it's important that people actually enter the data through the form in order to get an accurate representation in the graph here. But as you can see, each one of the questions, it expresses the data in either a pie graph or a bar graph or whatever it feels is most adequate. And so here for question number 1, you can see 25% said they're beginners, 50% said amateur, 25% said they're proficient. And remember, of course, there are only 4 responses on this one, so we don't have a lot of good data. But imagine how useful this could be if your students were given a little mini assessment, for example, and you're testing skills. You can quickly see at a glance which questions students need more work on. You can tell what their answers were and which questions were tougher for them, which were easier, and which ones they have a better grasp on. So this is a really nice feature. And again, very, very easy as long as the data is entered through the response or through the form rather than just entered into the spreadsheet. Okay, and that's all for this video. In the next series, which is called Google Forms and Sheets Amateur, in that series I'm going to focus mostly on the spreadsheets and doing some sorting, some advanced sorting and filtering, conditional formatting to color code your answer choices, and but we're also going to be looking at forms some more, also how to personalize forms based on respondents' answers to give them an individual learning experience, how to use data validation to ensure that you have consistent answers, and a whole lot more. So hope you'll join me for the next series. Thank you.